Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be going over the Stun God Bellower build, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so I wanted to get a video out on this because it's a very popular build for Bellower, and it's a lot different than the kind of standard speed farming, XP campaign guy. It's a lot different, and it's kind of a transition to a different style of play for Bellower than what people think is going to be the normal play style when they first summon Bellower. But the Bellower stun build can be very suppressive in a lot of different areas of the game. And now that the Doom Tower is out, it can be a very good progression build for that content, as well as not only the faction wars and the dungeons, when he can be amazing and suppressive versus the waves. And the reason that Bellower is such a good candidate for this build is all of his abilities are AoE. The A1 is going to block cooldown skills, the A2 is going to decrease speed, and the A3 is going to decrease attack and defense. So Bellower's kit is insane just for bringing a lot of debuffs on its own. Then when you couple that with a stun set and the Fearsome Presence passive, you get him built in high speed, enough accuracy to land his debuffs and get a bunch of turns in, and enough toughness to survive, and you have a very suppressive champion in Bellower who is also void, and he will never hit weak. Now, if you have not seen, I do have a dedicated video on the stun set, so if you are unfamiliar with the stun set and exactly how the mechanics work in terms of how it affects the cooldown of skills and exactly what the stun set is doing, I will link to that video over there if you want to check that out. But now let's head on over to the Bellower that I've got built in this build, and we'll talk about the entire gearing process and show you the masteries and all that stuff. Okay, so here is the Bellower that I've got in this build on my main account here, and you'll see, first of all, the 4 pieces of stun, and after the 4 pieces of stun, there's a couple different routes you can go. Speed's a great choice, perception, anything that gives you accuracy, speed, or toughness is going to be a good choice for those last 2 spots. But the reason you want him to have high speed is you want him cranking out turns. So you want him to go basically right after your turn meter boosters. So if you have somebody like an Apothecary or Lysandra, Arbiter, whatever, those are typically the fastest champions. And then right after that, you've got your stun proccers, your debuffers, which is where Bellower would slot in. And in terms of total stats, if you want to compare my builds, maybe one that you're putting together here, this is going to be definitely viable for all of the normal Doom Tower, all Faction Wars content, and then even heading up into the hard Doom Tower, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But we've got the 46k HP. The attack is mostly irrelevant. Remember, his damage does scale with attack, and he does do damage every single turn with the AoE ability on every single skill. But we're not building him as a damage dealer. We don't really care about his damage. He's not filling that role. He's not going to be some glass cannon running around one-shotting things and filling the role of DPS, so we're not worried about the attack on him. The 2800 defense, the 228 speed, the crit rate and the crit damage, again, similar to the attack. We're not really worried about it. The debuff resistance of 161 and debuff accuracy of 314. Now remember, if you're only caring about Faction Wars and dungeon content, typically you don't need to go above about 250 accuracy. But if you're going to be going up into the Doom Tower, there are some situations, especially in the hard Doom Tower, where the more accuracy, the better. And in the arena, if you ever want to use him in that scenario, then obviously you just want to get the accuracy as high as you possibly can, because in PvP, you don't know what their resistance is going to be. It could be 300, 400, 500, 700, you don't know. So the more accuracy, the better, depending on what league you're in. And while this build could be viable in certain arena scenarios, that's not really where it shines. This build shines versus waves of trash mobs, not against boss fights. Remember, you can't stun bosses. So this is going to really shine in a Doom Tower Faction Wars type scenario. But now let's go ahead and dive into the gear just so you can see what's going on here. This banner is a good candidate because we're getting lots of speed and accuracy. Now the flat stats are obviously a rip. I wish I would get a lot more toughness on it in terms of defense and HP percent. On the amulet, flat defense is a pretty good choice on Bellower for both the ring and the amulet, because his base defense is not very high. It's 914. So you do want to get defense where you can on him. Now his base HP is not that great either. So really you can't go wrong. If you've got an awesome HP amulet or HP ring, go ahead and throw it on. But I do like to get some defense on Bellower where it's possible, and the amulet and the ring can be a good spot to get that done. We're obviously going to be going with speed boots almost all the time because remember, we want him cranking out turns. And then on a lot of this gear, you're going to be looking for your best blend of accuracy and toughness after you get speed. Now on the chest, you can go HP or defense, and you would probably want at least one of the two pieces between the gloves and the chest to be HP. Going both defense on those and defense on the ring and the amulet would probably be a little bit too much. You do want to get some HP on him. So I would probably prefer to go HP, chest, and gloves, but these were the best gloves that I had to fit this build in terms of speed gloves available that I wasn't currently using. And then the top ones are a lot more simple. We're just looking for speed, accuracy, and toughness. And I do like to touch on the booking process just a little bit in some of these builds because sometimes people are curious about it. So with Bellower, it's pretty simple. Book him. You get debuff chance on the A1, you get cooldown and cooldown. So the books are super impactful, and there's really no scenario where it would make sense to not book Bellower, because if you are early to mid game, he's an amazing progression champion. So it makes a lot of sense to spend the books on him. And then if you're super end game, rare books are not a problem for you. You're getting a ton of them from the clan boss, the nightmare, ultra nightmare type clan boss fights. So there's really no scenario where it wouldn't make sense to max out full book potential on your Bellower. And then for the masteries, this part is going to be important for this build because the fearsome presence is an absolute must. The stun set is an 18% chance to stun on the set effect. Getting 5% more on that, going from 18% to 23%, is a big deal. It's not like going from 85% to 90%, where it's not quite as impactful. Going from 18% to 23%, that 5 is very, very important. So definitely if you're going the Stun God Bellower build, you're going to want to get this Fearsome Presence tier 6 mastery to go along and really enable the full potential of that build with the stun set. But yeah, I will leave this up here just for a little bit if you want to be able to pause the video or see the exact masteries that I am using on my Bellower stun build. We don't really need to go down the offense tree because obviously we're not going to be taking War Master or anything like that when we're taking the tier 6 Fearsome Presence. So we're not going to get a whole lot of value out of the damage doing stuff, so we might as well go down the support tree. Master Hexer is great on him, and so is Sniper as well, so you're definitely going to want to take those two on the support tree. But there is that in case you wanted to see the masteries and be able to pause it and build your champion accordingly. But now let's head on into the Doom Tower, and I will show you the type of team that you can maybe put together in terms of progressing content and fighting your way through the Doom Tower. So this is going to be a scenario where Bellower in that stun set would do very well. This is hard level 22. You can see by the levels of the champions, we are on the hard Doom Tower. So just to show that it would be definitely viable and amazing in the normal side of the Doom Tower. So if you don't have my gear or my type of Great Hall, my type of stats, a team like this is definitely going to be good all the way through normal, as long as you can set up the Bellower to be extremely suppressive and get those turns off to keep cranking out that value. So when you're doing progression type content, I like to go heavy on the support. You can see here Avir, Bellower, Apothecary, Reliquary Tender, and Kayle. So Kayle is going to be lots of the damage, going to be the main source of the damage dealing. And then Reliquary Tender is basically there in case things go wrong. Somebody gets one shot or somebody drops. Reliquary Tender can go ahead and revive them. It's always nice to have a reviver when you're trying to progress and clear tougher content. So lots of heals, lots of boosting, lots of support, lots of help to help the Kayle keep sustaining the damage dealing duties and getting through. But obviously a team like this is not going to be a speed run. Look at the Bellower placing all of those debuffs, and then you pair him with the stun set. It's just so much debuffing and suppression. There's all the block cooldown skills going down. The stun went up there on the top left. So every time he places that stun, that's going to be a time that they don't take a turn. The stun is an amazing. You see right there in the middle, we've got a stun. There's another stun on the top left. So Bellower not only placing all those debuffs, but being insane on all those stuns and stopping your opponents from taking a turn. That's why I love this build about Bellower, and it's something that everybody out there who has a Bellower should look into doing, especially if they are early to mid-game, looking to progress in certain content. This Bellower build, the Stun God type setup with that Fearsome Presence mastery, can be insane in terms of clearing all these waves and helping you progress. But yeah, that's mostly what I want to talk about in this video, going over the Stun God build. I think it's very fun, and it's something that everybody out there with a Bellower should consider doing because it can be extremely suppressive against those waves and helping you progress through, especially now that the Doom Tower has been released. And it's one of the reasons that Bellower is one of those champions that people constantly debate Should I build 2 of them? Because, hey, I mean, in Faction Wars, it can be just that much more ridiculous. You get 2 Bellowers in a stun set, and you got like these waves just never even taking a turn. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those scenarios where maybe building 2 Bellowers could just be that much fun and that suppressive. I've never done that. I'm not a huge fan of building like multiple type support champions. It's really tough to get consistent value out of that unless you're super endgame and you've got tons of resources to go ahead and slam it into building 2 Bellowers or 2 Cold Arts or something, 2 Royal Guards. That's probably some of the more popular ones that get built multiples of. But yeah, Bellower definitely a candidate for going like the double stun set to try and progress in the Doom Tower and in the Faction Wars. The only problem is it's not going to be very good versus boss fights. Bellower, this build is designed to help you against when you're facing multiple enemies, multiple normal enemies that you can actually stun, which is not going to help you against boss fights. You can't really block cooldown skills, and you can't stun them or get lots of the value that the build provides. But that'll do it for this one, and as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.